Vic,
Can we begin already, sir?
is everyone here now? All 144?
Yes, sir. 144
And,
so
and
far, sir.
the others who will join later can just come in, right?
That is correct, sir.
Okay. Can we, just to save on bandwidth, can we request all the registrants, except the speakers, to turn off the video and also mute themselves? Thank you.
If you wish, sir, we can begin already.
Yes.
If you want. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the this online briefing. First and foremost, we would like to welcome you to this. I am Deputy Consul General Victor Dimagiba Jr., and I will be your MC and moderator for this virtual briefing entitled "The Alberta Government's Bursary Program for the Filipino Internationally Educated Nurses," brought to you by the Philippine Consulate General in Calgary and the Ministry of Advanced Education of the Province of Alberta, and in partnership with the Philippine Canadian Nurses Association. We have currently around 140 in our Zoom platform right now, and this is also is being live streamed in our Facebook page at PH in Calgary. Before I begin, some housekeeping rules. Please remain muted and turn off your cameras if you are not a speaker during the duration of the webinar. Questions will be welcome to be raised at the Zoom chat box, and which will be read during the open forum portion of this program. When writing your question, please identify yourself and to whom the question is addressed. To start this program, may I call on the Honorable Consul General Zaldi B. Patron to deliver his welcome remarks. Consul General Patron, please.
Thank you very much, Deputy Consul General Vic Dimagiba Jr. Magandang hapon po. Good afternoon to all of you. Good morning to all our friends in the Philippines. Good evening to those who are in the East Coast. I am pleased to welcome you all to this online briefing on the Alberta government's bursary program for the Filipino internationally educated nurses. The Philippine Consulate General in Calgary is hosting this briefing following the announcement made by the Alberta government through the Honorable Demetrios Nicolaides, Minister of Advanced Education, and the Honorable Jason Copping, Minister of Health, on 13 February 2023 at the Mount Royal University regarding the new bursary program in the amount of $7.8 million that the province of Alberta is offering to all internationally educated nurses who would like to undergo the nursing credentialing process and the nursing bridging program. At the same time, the Alberta government announced an additional $7.3 million in funding for the creation of 626 new seats for the bridging programs for registered nurses in Mount Royal University and for the licensed practical nurses in Bow Valley College and Northwest College. These financial assistance programs, as the Alberta government came about, is a result of the advocacy made by the Philippine Consulate General to promote the welfare of the Filipino internationally educated nurses who are here in Alberta but are not practicing their nursing profession due to the high cost of the nursing credentialing process and the expensive nursing bridging program. As the head of the Philippine Consulate General in Calgary, I personally met with former Premier Jason Kenney and several of his ministers and the officials of the College of Registered Nurses of Alberta, National Nursing Assessment Service, and Mount Royal University to lobby for an easier recognition of the credentials of the Filipino nurses so they will be able to practice as registered nurses in this province. This will not only be good for the Filipino nurses, it will also be good for Alberta's healthcare sector, as it will be reinforced by the
Sir, excuse me, we cannot hear you.
You are muted.
Sorry about that technical problem. Vic, would you know where I should start again? Where did I end?
The last paragraph, the previous paragraph to that one you're reading, sir.
Okay. So as I was mentioning, this will not only be good for the Filipino nurses, it will also be good for Alberta's healthcare sector, as it will be reinforced by the highly competent and compassionate Filipino nurses. Ultimately, it will be beneficial for the millions of Albertans needing healthcare, as they will now be attended by more Filipino nurses. On October 6, 2022, the Philippines-Alberta MOU on the recruitment of Filipino nurses was signed. On the Philippine side, the MOU was made possible through the joint efforts of the Philippine Consulate General in Calgary, the newly created Department of Migrant Workers, the Migrant Workers Office in Vancouver, the Department of Foreign Affairs, and the Office of the President. The MOU's key provisions include the extension of financial incentives for the Filipino internationally educated nurses, the potential delivery of Alberta's nursing bridging program in the Philippines through accredited institutions,
Tabla?
and government-to-government recruitment of
Pati
Filipinos.
LPN pa. Pati si Cristel pwede siya.
Yeah, may we request everyone to mute their mic if they're not resource persons or speakers.
Pwede listada. Oh,
Ipos. I-mute. Na-mute naman eh.
listada lang na ano daw, bulking papel.
Si Cristel pwede siya.
May we ask everybody to please mute themselves if you're not a speaker. Thank you very much.
Can the administrator also mute some of our registrants?
We will, sir.
Thank you. The Philippine Consulate General, therefore, welcomes the new $7.8 million funding for the internationally educated nurses in the province as a fulfillment of the provisions of the Philippines-Alberta MOU on the recruitment Filipino nurses. Each Filipino IEN can now receive as much as $30,000 in financial assistance that they can use to pay for the nursing credentials assessment and testing fees and the tuition for the nursing bridging program. We are thankful to former Premier Jason Kenney for signing the MOU on behalf of the Alberta government. Likewise, we are grateful to the current Premier, Honorable Daniel Smith, for keeping Alberta's commitment under the MOU and even enhancing the financial assistance that is now available to the Filipino internationally educated nurses in the province. I also wish to convey my gratitude to Minister Nicolaides and Minister Kaping, who both work closely with the Philippine Consulate General in having the Philippines-Alberta MOU finalized. Even now, we continue to work with these two ministers for the implementations of the MOU. Tonight, Minister Nicolaides has made himself available to address the Filipino internationally educated nurses and explain to them the bursary program. Two of his colleagues at the Ministry of Advanced Education, Minister Alan O'Brien and Ms. Megan van der Linden, will speak about the details of the bursary program. I also wish to thank Dr. Chad London, Vice President Academic of Mount Royal University, Dr. Mishek Mwaba, President and CEO of Bow Valley College, and Dean Jennifer Ma of Northwest College, who are with us today to explain the respective nursing bridging programs. I would like to thank Mrs. Lucy Reyes, President of the newly formed Philippine Canadian Nurses Association, and Ms. Marlene Waco of the Alberta Registered Nurses Education Trust, who will serve as our reactors. Lastly, I am thankful to all our audience, mostly Filipino nurses, who are joining this online briefing. I hope that you will be enlightened by the presentations that you will hear and that you will realize that now is the best time to undergo the nursing credentialing process in the province of Alberta. It is our hope that through the collective efforts of the Philippine Consulate General in Calgary, the Philippine Department of Migrant Workers, and the Alberta government, as we implement the Philippines-Alberta MOU on the recruitment of Filipino nurses, the Filipino nurses in this province will be able to work as full-fledged nurses and that they will eventually achieve personal and professional fulfillment. As today is also the International Women's Day here in Canada, and noting that many Filipino nurses here in the Philippines and in other countries are women, I would like to greet each one of them a happy International Women's Day. Thank you. Salamat po. Mabuhay.
Minister Nicolaides is in the room. So may I call on the minister to make his remarks. Minister, please.
Sure. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to join you all this evening. I hope you can all hear and see me okay. As always, with whenever you're using technology, there's bound to be a couple of issues. I want to begin by expressing my sincere thank you to Consul General Patron for his support and the strong relationship that we've been able to develop together and with the government of Alberta. He has been a critical player and such an important partner in developing the MOU that we signed. And I want to thank him for the work that he's done, and thank him as well for setting up this information session so that we can introduce and talk a little bit more about the new supports that are available for internationally educated nurses that are looking to start the nursing credentialing process in Alberta. And of course, thank you to everyone who is joining and participating in our conversation this evening. When I'm thinking about the MOU that we've signed with the government of the Philippines and the supports that we've put in place to help internationally educated nurses, for me, it all comes back to one key message. And that message is that Alberta needs you. Alberta needs nurses. We need them in our healthcare system today, and we need them in the future. There are hundreds of internationally educated nurses who are willing to study, live, and work in our province to help fill those needs. But I know sometimes it's not easy for many of them. The process to become licensed to work as a nurse in Alberta can be long and difficult and sometimes expensive. It can take more than a year of training to become licensed, all while facing challenges and expenses of moving to a new country. And so we want to change that and support internationally educated nurses who choose to live and work in Alberta. One of the first steps that we took to do this was Alberta's Memorandum of Understanding with the government of the Philippines to help bring more Filipino nurses to Alberta. I remember when we signed the agreement at Mount Royal University in October, we heard from Hannah, a student with the Bridge to Canadian Nursing program at Mount Royal University. Hannah came to Canada from Lebanon almost 8 years ago, and she came here looking for a better life and with a dream to work in one of the world's leading healthcare systems. But because of the licensing process and delays in getting into Mount Royal University, she had been out of practice for 7 long years. Hannah applied to the bridging program in 2017, but she couldn't be admitted into the program until 2022.
Wow.
If she hadn't been forced to wait for 5 years, we could have already had one more nurse in Alberta. Now, I've come to understand that Hannah's experience is not unique. Many internationally educated nurses face long wait lists and financial barriers to become accredited in Alberta. And that's why I'm really excited to be here with you today to talk more about the ways that we're making it easier for internationally educated nurses to study, live, and work in our province. In fact, starting this year, we are investing $7.8 million a year into a new bursary that will give internationally educated nurses a maximum of. We're also creating nurse bridging programs at Mount Royal University in Edmonton. Alberta has the best frontline healthcare workers in the world, and I'm certain that there are many people listening to this call who want to take advantage of the opportunities that Alberta has to offer and to practice as a nurse while helping Alberta meet its need for more nurses. So I want to talk very quickly about those expanded spaces, the new bursary program, and how these investments tie back to our agreement with the Philippines. So first and foremost, at Mount Royal University, we're adding 256 new seats to the registered nurse bridging program. At Bow Valley College, we'll be adding 120 new seats to the licensed practical nurse bridging program. And at Norquest College in Edmonton, we're adding 250 new seats to the licensed practical nurse bridging program. These seats will start to become available in the 2023-24 academic year beginning this September. And I just want to emphasize how important this investment is. These bridging seats are in high demand, with many applicants waiting years to be admitted due to limited capacity. This investment will help ensure that internationally educated nurses who want to come live and work in Alberta can do so without having to wait years. And secondly, it's not just the wait lists that are barriers for internationally educated nurses. As I mentioned, cost is a big factor that can make accreditation difficult. And that's why we've created a new bursary. And with this new bursary, we're hoping to reduce the barrier of cost so that more internationally educated nurses can work as nurses in Alberta. As I mentioned, the bursary can provide up to a maximum of $30,000 for each individual person to help them cover the cost of nurse bridging programs, tuition, and even other living expenses. The bursary does have a return of service agreement. If you receive the bursary, you will be required to complete a year of nursing service in Alberta for every $6,000 you receive. This will help graduates find work in our province while also helping out areas that are seeing nursing shortages. Any internationally educated nurse living in Alberta who is enrolled in an approved bridging program will be automatically eligible for the bursary, regardless of their eligibility for other student assistance. The amount of the bursary will be determined by the program of study, your individual tuition costs, licensing fees, and other fees. But the minimum, the bare minimum that someone can receive is $8,000. And so in closing, I just want to summarize, and I hope you can see from these actions that Alberta's government is working to make it easier for internationally educated nurses from the Philippines to come to Alberta and work in our healthcare system. I want to offer my thanks to Mount Royal University, Bow Valley College, and Norquest College for meeting the government's call and expanding their bridging programs for internationally educated nurses. I would encourage you to have a look at the website of Mount Royal University, Bow Valley, and Norquest to find out what each program can bring and offer you. Also, thanks to the cooperation between the government of the Philippines and the Alberta government, the new bursary and the additional seats in nurse bridging programs all create a great opportunity for Filipino nurses who want to work in Alberta. I encourage you to start the nurse credentialing process. Now is the time. If you are an internationally educated nurse and have put off accreditation in Alberta because of the cost or long wait list, now is the time to take that journey. I'd like to thank again in closing Consul General Zaldi Patron for his advocacy and dedication that led to the historic partnership with our two governments. I am very proud and honored to build this strong relationship between Alberta and the Philippines, and I look forward to doing even more to support our healthcare system and create new opportunities for more Filipino Albertan nurses to make Alberta their home. Together, we are all working to have the right supports in place for you and to ensure that Albertans can get the healthcare they need when and where they need it. Thank you very much for having me again this evening.
Thank you very much, Minister Nicolaides, for your kind words. Moving forward with our program, I would like to invite Mr. Alan O'Brien and Ms. Megan van der Linden from the Ministry of Advanced Education to make their presentation on the bursary program of the province of Alberta. Mr. O'Brien and Ms. van der Linden, please.
Thank you very much, Victoria. I'd like to thank Minister Nicolaides for his opening remarks, as well as Consul General Patron for inviting us along today. So we'd like to talk to you a little bit about the Bursary for Internationally Educated Nurses program that we'll be launching, and just give you a bit of an overview of what all that entails and how we have the program developed so far. So Victoria, I'm not sure if we have the PowerPoint available.
There, it's being shared right now. Just wait.
Perfect. Thank you. So I'll start with the agenda. So first, we're just going to cover high-level program intent, and then we'll get a little bit deeper into the program design, which includes the basic eligibility criteria, the value of the bursary program, the selection process, as well as the return in service, and then we'll have some time at the end for some questions. So Megan van der Linden is going to be here and gracefully help me with the questions afterwards, just to make sure that we get this all right. So I'll walk through the presentation. So the program intent for the Bursary for Internationally Educated Nurses is to provide funding for internationally educated nurses to complete the bridging training that's required to practice nursing in Alberta. That's the high-level program intent, and that's what we're offering right now. So moving into the program design, the general eligibility criteria, sorry, just tripping over my own words. So the way this works is internationally educated nurses from any point of origin are eligible to receive this bursary. Although I know you're most interested in what this means to nurses from the Philippines. So the bursary is available to any IEN learner who successfully enrolled in an approved bridging program, regardless whether they're already qualified for any other student financial supports, including federal or provincial student aid. And students are eligible for a maximum of one bursary over their lifetime through the bridging program. So to be eligible, the applicant must live in Alberta, and they must be enrolled in a full-time program approved approved by Alberta that starts on or after January of 2023. So meaning that some students would have already started potentially these programs, but if you started the program in January or after January of 2023, you can be eligible for this bursary. So currently we have 3 eligible bridging programs. So through 3 institutions, so Bow Valley College with their program, Mount Royal University and Northwest College. We expect that there's potentially going to be further bridging programs available for students, and we will keep you updated as those become available. So each internationally educated nurse is eligible for a maximum of $30,000 as indicated by Minister Nicolaides in support of bridging education. And that award amount really depends on how long they'll be in studies for. So the value of the bursary, thank you. So the value of the bursary is upfront, there's a fixed incentive set at $35,000 per student, and that covers criminal record checks, licensing, examination, any program fees that are tied in as well. We also cover tuition up to 75%, varying between $2,600 and about $12,000. We also cover living expenses up to a maximum of just over $3,600 per term to $14,500 per year. So recipients will be accepted based on the minimum eligibility for the bursary itself, and it'll be on a first come, first served basis as we have limited budget. We can move to the next slide. Yeah, perfect. So there is a return in service component to this bursary, as also earlier indicated through our announcements. So as a condition of receiving supports for internationally educated nurses, they must follow licensing, undertake a term of service within a designated rural area within Alberta. Each recipient completes 1 year of studies for every 1 year of service for every $6,000 received. And it would be up to a maximum of 5 years with that return of service. All right, so how to apply? So students would apply through a third party's website. So we're currently working with a nonprofit agency right now. We're just waiting to get the grant agreement in place, and they will be delivering the bursary on behalf of the provincial government. So students must complete an application form and provide a statement of registration from their post-secondary. And that statement would need to include the terms that are required for the program, as well as the full amount of tuition and mandatory fees required for the program. And then students must commit at the time that they apply as well to working in a rural area upon completion of their bridging program and completing the licensing process. And generally, in a nutshell, that is the presentation for this afternoon. So I'd like to move to questions if you have any questions.
We will, Mr. Allen, we will move to the questions at the end of the program.
Oh, perfect.
All right, so please hold your questions and put them in the chat box later. So we can move on with the next part. So I would like to introduce Dr. Chad London, Provost of and Vice President for Academic for Mount Royal University, to make his presentation. Provost London, please.
Thank you so much. Hopefully you can hear me and you can see me, and we'll bring up the presentation. If you have it, that'd be great. As was said, my name is Chad London, and I'm the Provost and Vice President Academic at Mount Royal University. And I'm here today to talk to you about our Bridge to Canadian Nursing program. I want to thank Consul General Patron for the invitation, for organizing this briefing, for the Honorable Minister Nicolaides for being here and speaking about the bursary. We're very excited about this, and I look forward to sharing more with you about our Bridge to Canadian Nursing Program. I've got about 10 slides, so it won't take too long, but yeah, this is the snapshot of what the School of Nursing and Midwifery looks like. We've been in nursing education at Mount Royal for a long, long time. Back in 1967, we started with an intake of just 25 students. And now we have programs in a Bachelor of Nursing, a Bachelor of Midwifery. We have an Advanced Critical Care Nursing Certificate. And then what I'm here to talk to you all about today, and that's the Bridge to Canadian Nursing Certificate of Achievement, which has grown significantly since we started that program as well. It now has over 120, and we'll be growing it as Minister Nicolaides had said. So the primary goal of that program is to provide internationally educated nurses in Alberta with those educational opportunities that are going to help you become prepared for registered nursing practice in Alberta and in Canada. We can move to the next slide. Thank you. When we look at the mission of the Bridge to Canadian Nursing Program, the goal is to provide you with nursing education that will assist IENs to practice nursing ethically and competently within the Canadian healthcare system. And the ultimate goal is to inspire IENs to make a difference as registered nurses in Canada. So the BCN program, we call it the BCN for short, the Bridge to Canadian Nursing, we call it the BCN. And there are several aspects and components to the curriculum to help you become successful in practicing as RNs. And the first is to really ensure you have the professional nursing language to communicate in an interprofessional context within the Canadian healthcare system and in Alberta. And part of the focus of the curriculum is to help IENs transition into nursing practice in Canada, which is different. And it is quite complex. And so that's a big focus of the courses within the program, is to give a context around what nursing in Alberta looks like, and nursing in various areas, nursing in family, newborn, in child health, in mental health, and of course, making sure that you have the education that you need around skills and professional practice, and trying to facilitate that safe nursing practice. All of that, the goal is to prepare the IENs to meet the requirements of the regulatory body, which is the College of Registered Nurses of Alberta. With the education you receive through the BCN, it prepares you to meet those requirements. And we work really closely with the CRNA, with the regulatory body, to ensure our curriculum aligns with their requirements. And I can say that the BCN program is the only full bridging program for internationally educated nurses in Alberta to prepare them to become RNs. And we can move to the next slide. Thank you. So the minister mentioned the Bursary program, and this picture shows you the day that announcement has happened, and there's Consul General Patron and the student that spoke at that event as well from our BCN program. So you can see we're growing, and the minister mentioned this, and through support from the government, we're increasing the number of seats in the Bridge to Canadian Nursing program, trying to provide more opportunities for you all and for IENs to access the education that you need to prepare to become nurses in Alberta. So you can see we're growing to 240 seats is where we're striving forward to reach, and increasing seats each year between now and then. So in terms of the curriculum itself and how it's delivered, this has evolved over time, I would say, as well, to better meet the needs of learners. And so you can see we're now improving our distance delivery, and we're located in Calgary, Alberta, and that's where our campus is, and our main campus is, but we're starting to offer our theory courses online to increase accessibility to IENs, no matter where they might be. And then there's a 2-week residency where you come on site for your lab component and for your simulated practice experiences to get those really hands-on learning that you'll get. Right now, we're also piloting with Alberta Health Services, that's AHS, and they're the healthcare provider in the province of Alberta. And we're working with them on developing clinical sites in more rural and areas outside of Calgary, so that IENs can study closer to their hometowns if they're not in Calgary. And so we're piloting a program right now around that clinical setting. And as you can see there, you might be wondering how long this program is. The fall cohort takes 10 months, and then the winter cohort can be completed in 14 months. So how you go about applying to the Bridge Canadian Nursing Program. There are a few steps, and it was mentioned that, you know, going to our Mount Royal website and following those steps, the information's there, but I'm going to share it here as well. So there is a step where an IEN is required to apply directly to the National Nursing Assessment Service. And then you meet the English language proficiency requirement demonstrated as part of that application process. But once, as an IEN, you've received a report from that National Nursing Assessment Service, then you apply to the College of Registered Nurses of Alberta. They review your application. The CRNA decides if you need a bridging program or not. That assessment process is evolving. We're trying to work with the CRNA to expedite it as much as we can and make it smooth and clear. But as part of that process, once the CRNA looks at the application, they will send a letter to the IEN about whether a bridging education program is needed, including which courses you would need to take out of those that we offer in the BCN. And then at that point, you apply to the BCN program at Mount Royal once you've received that letter from the CRNA. And you use the actual Mount Royal application for admission form that all of our prospective students complete. And in terms of how we bring students in, they are accepted on a first come, first served basis. And so it's great that we're increasing the number of seats in the program to make room for the demand that we have. And just a couple of words about the great partnership that we have underway with the Philippine Consulate General. The goal is to clear a pathway for employment, as the minister was saying, for Filipino nurses to come to Alberta as registered nurses. And working with partner institutions, working with the consulate, we're trying to expedite the process actually by looking at offering courses in the Philippines to prepare IENs to enter practice as RNs, and just to expedite the process. So when you get to Canada, you would complete the clinical placement only. So that's one of the initiatives coming out of the partnership that we've signed with Consul General Patron, which is very exciting for us. That concludes my presentation, and we look forward to you being a part of that future that we're talking about for becoming RNs in Alberta. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Provost London, for enlightening the audience on what MRU will be offering for the bridging program. May I now call on the President and CEO of Bow Valley College, Dr. Mishek Mwaba. President Mwaba, please.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, and those in Philippines, good morning. First, I want to thank Consul General Patron for the invitation to participate in this, and also thank Minister Nicolaidas for how he's championed increasing the number of seats in high demand programs in post-secondary, especially in the healthcare programs. So Minister, thank you very much. I've got a few slides. I want to talk a little bit about Bow Valley College, and then I'll talk about the practical nurse diploma for internationally educated nurses. So if we just go to the first slide there, So the second slide, Bursary College is actually located in downtown Calgary. And we've got about 14,000 students in different areas. And healthcare is one of those programs where we've got a lot of students. In terms of students, we've got students from different parts of the world. And one of the things we are committed to is really to ensuring that we support these international students so that they can get the skills that are needed to start working in Canada. We've got about 160 countries that are represented at Bursary College. So if we go to the next slide, please. Yeah, we've got different programs that help the students to get to where they are. So academic upgrading, language training, like I said, health and wellness is one of the largest schools. Actually, we've been providing practical nursing programs for the last 20 years. So it's an area where we've actually been growing. Something that's of interest to those who are considering coming to Bursary College, if we go to the next slide, just now of the international students we've got, we can look at about 1,231 students present who are from the Philippines, and 846 of them are actually in the School of Health, where the practical nursing program is. If we go to the next slide. So I want to focus a little bit, those are just some of the programming that we do in the healthcare. But for today, I want to focus on the practical nurse diploma. Next slide, please. So the practical nurse diploma for international educated nurses, this is one of the programs where we actually recognize the learning that has been done. And the program is designed in a way that you can get up to 5 courses in advanced standing. So you don't have to repeat that knowledge. We also have got clinical placements that we offer. And our students who have come here actually have got a very high rate of getting the jobs immediately after they finish. Now, because this is a licensed practical nursing, sometimes the students would want to go and get the registered nurse programs. And what we've done is really to develop different pathways with other universities. And Chad was talking about the program at Mount Royal. Again, that's another program where some of the students who have graduated from Bursary College can easily get in there and get the RN designation. For this program, you will take about 1 year to complete. And we actually have 2 types of delivery. One is a blended delivery where most of the theory is done online, and then you come for the labs. The other type of delivery we have is where we've got all the students in class, and then you do the labs. We have 2 intakes. One is in September, and the other one is January. And thank you very much to the additional seats. We are actually going to increase the intake, because just now we have been limited to taking only 50 students. And with the additional seats that we've been given, we are going to add to the intakes, which is good news. If we go to the next program, next slide, please. Yeah, we are looking at how can we make it most efficient and easier for those internationally trained professionals to get the skills that are required to go into the profession in Alberta. And one of the things we've been playing around with is competence-based education and also virtual reality. So what we're doing is we are now talking to the College of Licensed Practical Nursing so that we can look at how can we supplement this knowledge so that individuals are actually able to demonstrate the learning they've done. And then where we identify the gap, we focus on addressing that gap. And what we believe is this is something that's going to accelerate the bridging program. So instead of spending 1 year, we are hoping that individuals can spend less than a year so that they can go and start helping Albertans. Because as the minister said, we need a lot of nurses in our healthcare facilities. Our next program, please. Yeah, so this just shows some of the VR labs that we've got at Bovalle College. That's actually helping to have that technology enhanced learning where students are able to be virtually in the hospital setting and basically diagnose and examine patients. So that's Bovalle College. The last slide is just talking about Bovalle College and what we're trying to do to really support the international healthcare professionals to get what they need very quickly and cost efficiently so that they can go and start helping. So thank you very much. I've put a link in the chat that you can access, and it will tell you a little bit more about how you can apply to Bovalle College. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, President Moaba, for providing us a wonderful overview of what Bovalle College will be offering in the coming years for our IENs. I would now like to call on our last panelist for this afternoon, Dean Jennifer Ma of Northwest College, on their institution's plans. Dean Ma, you may proceed.
Thank you, Victorio. Do you mind pulling up the presentation?
For sure, we'll pull it up.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Council Patron for inviting Northwest College and me to provide this presentation, and Honorable Minister Nicolaitis for the opportunity to provide this education to internationally educated nurses. So today here in Canada, it is March 8th. And on March 8th, 1966, my mother came from the Philippines. She traveled from a small town called Dueñas in the province of Iloilo and came as an internationally educated nurse to work in Alberta. I followed in her footsteps and also took nursing as well. And so this program is, I'm passionate about providing and supporting internationally educated nurses in their path to become a nurse here in Alberta. So I work at Northwest College in Edmonton, Alberta. So you've heard from some institutions in Calgary, and we are the partners just to the north and in the city here in Edmonton. At Northwest College, there are 20,000 students, 1,829 international. Sorry, Victorio, I'm confusing you, but we're still on the first slide. 1,829 international learners that come from 108 countries. 1,000 or just over 1,000 identify as Indigenous learners, and 62% of them are female. In the practical nurse diploma for internationally educated nurses, the program values the internationally educated nurses' previous education and experience while supporting learning of the Canadian healthcare system. Nurses graduating from the program are confident in their ability to provide safe, competent, and culturally appropriate care to a variety of clients. With the support from the Alberta government, Northwest has an additional 250 new seats, and we're very excited about the impact that we can make in the healthcare system here in Alberta. In the next slide, you'll see that the pathway, if you take the program. So we do have a pre-English term where some individuals do not meet the English language proficiency, and we will provide them with education for this, as well as support to learn the Canadian culture. As we proceed to the right, you'll see at the bottom that students will undergo or will review their advanced credit, and they can take challenge exams. And in this way, we can ensure that the pathway that you take in your education is supportive of your needs, and we address the gaps. Once you start the program, you will take some classroom learning, some labs, and participate in some clinical practicums. Once you graduate, you will qualify to take the Canadian Practical Nurse Registration Exam, which will enable you to practice in Alberta with a license. As Bow Valley indicated as well, you can continue on to take a degree at many of the institutions in Alberta or outside of Alberta to take a degree in nursing or in other areas in health as well. In the next slide, you'll see the admission requirements. So there are only 2 admission requirements to get into the program. One is that you have graduated from a nursing program in another country, such as the Philippines. And the other one is looking at your English language proficiency. For this, you've either graduated in Canada from high school, or you have taken 3 years of full-time secondary or post-secondary study in, oh, it says education, but it should be in English. And so the Philippines is an exempt country for us. And as long as you've done 3 years of English education in the Philippines, you meet the English language proficiency. On this next slide, you'll see the English language proficiency requirements. But as I said before, if you've taken 3 years of English study in the Philippines, you would meet this. The structure of our program is it can take up to 16 months. And the reason for this is that some nurses haven't practiced. Perhaps you've worked in a call center for the time and need more support. So this support would be provided in the program, and you would have the theory and practice to be able to upgrade your skills and work in the Alberta system. There are 77 credits, 12 practical nursing theory and lab courses, 3 clinical courses with 465 hours, and 3 support courses. We've really tailored this program to ensure that you have the cultural competency to work in the Alberta system. So we provide this through these 3 courses, supporting education and learning the Canadian context. You would automatically get credit for 5 courses, and then you would qualify to do the challenge exams where you could get more credit, and it could shorten the amount of your program. If you can turn to the next slide and one more slide, the clinical requirements. All students going to a clinical practicum require some other additional things to do. You'll see on the slide that there are asterisks beside some of the items, and those items can be taken at Norquest College prior to your practicum. The other ones included are a police information check with a vulnerable sector check, an up-to-date immunization record, and like I said, the other ones are available through the college, and you would be required to fulfill those to ensure that you can go into the clinical area. And the next slide, why Norquest? Why would you come to Norquest? Well, I live in Edmonton. So I'm probably a little bit biased, but I do love the city and I do love Norquest College. We're a very inclusive college with a global community, an innovative perspective, and we really focus on intercultural competence. And so our global community, so one back, there we go, thank you. Like I had mentioned before, there are 1,829 international learners from 108 countries. The Philippines is one of the top 3 countries that students come from to Norquest College. There are 73 first languages spoken on campus. And I had mentioned 62% of these learners at the college are female. Innovation. So like our partners at Bow Valley, we're also embarking on virtual reality and utilizing robots to be able to provide education to our learners. We utilize high and low fidelity simulation and are embarking on a project to replace clinical with simulation to provide learners with the knowledge and skills they need to work in a healthcare system. We have high flex learning options, which is an innovative way of providing education to learners. And then intercultural competence. So we do focus on ensuring that our learners are able to interact with the many different people from various cultures and countries of the world. And there is a course within the program called ESLG 1706, where students utilize a cycle called the Something's Up cycle and looks at how to interact with diverse populations. We focus on resolving ethical dilemmas and having those difficult conversations during those dilemmas. So with the 250 new seats, there will be intakes as early as May this year, with 50 new students coming in. And then in September, there will be 75. In January, this term starts with the English language proficiency term, and it will flow into then May, where the students that don't meet the requirements for English language proficiency would take a whole term to upgrade that, and they would join a class that comes in May 2024. Thank you very much for having me, and I hope that the information that I provided you entices you to engage in some learning here in Alberta and at Norquest College. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact Aisha Thornton, so you'll see her email on the screen, or myself, Jennifer Ma. Thank you very much, and I'll pass it back to you, Vittorio.
Thank you, Dean Ma, for your illuminating presentation this afternoon. Now we will proceed to the reactors for this afternoon. I have the pleasure to invite Mrs. Lucy Reyes, President of the Philippine Canadian Nurses Association, and Ms. Marilyn Wacko, Executive Director of the Alberta Registered Nurses Educational Trust, to briefly share with us their thoughts on these new measures that we have just heard this afternoon. May I remind, before you start, our reactors to limit your comments to within 5 minutes. Thank you. Mrs. Reyes, you may wish to start and proceed.
Thank you, Vic. May I please have my slides?
For sure.
Thank you, Honorable Minister Nicolaides and Philippine Consul General Saldi Patron for this very important partnership. My name is Lucy Reyes, and I am one example of a successful IEN who was able to overcome the challenges in Alberta and create successes with my 30 years as a frontline recognized nursing leader within Alberta and nationally and internationally. So to set the context about Philippine nursing education, the global migration of nurses started in the early 60s. Most of you know that the colonization of United States created some positive opportunities to actually base the nursing education the same as in the United States. So therefore, most Filipino nurses, when they come to the United States of America, there's no bridging required. They just need to take the exam. And lots of successes have been seen in that. In addition to that, our Filipino the Filipino family tradition of caring and compassion are compatible to the art and science of nursing. Next slide, please. Now that the funding announcement has been made, I would want to take this opportunity to add some opportunities for improvement to make the Alberta scenario great again using the 3R approach. One is retention by creating some workplace improvement, support for providers by building workforce capacity and leadership. Frontline nursing leaders are becoming extinct when 80% of the work in patient care is nursing related. Who is best to help a nurse and support a nurse, but another nurse leader? Second R is the restructuring, regulatory integration. Alberta is one of the provinces where there are 4 regulatory bodies. To actually integrate this would require revisiting the Health Profession Act. The other one, maybe once this is done, we could actually look at national licensing. In national licensing will provide opportunities for these nurses or any healthcare professionals to move elsewhere, and it would also prompt service providers or employers to actually become competitive and create better workplace situations. The other one, you wanna backtrack this slide, please? Reintegration, reintegrating the IENs into the Canadian healthcare setting, and also enticing the inactive Canadian nurses who left nursing out of their frustration to come back because it's improved. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. So these are just the opportunities from a regulatory issue. Jurisdictional, currently it's provincial and lots of practice differences when there is one national licensing body. The credentialing evaluation is per applicant, time-consuming versus school-based, or even better, country of origin. Next slide, please. There is enough big data since the licensure examination was changed to NCLEX from 2006 and onward. The review of that data will create opportunities for improving the current credentialing system and mapping the new processes. Every province have their own unique assessment processes, yet they're all trying to achieve the same goal, to license the international educated nurses. There's also a need for enhanced collaboration among service providers, regulatory and professional associations, the unions, and all levels of government. I was delighted when the federal government announced last year, I think it was in October, the reinstitution of the federal chief nursing officer, but it was only on a 2-year term. For that senior level position, it's not enough to actually develop strategic directions and achieve them. Next slide, please. Suggested opportunities for employers. Improve the experiences of both the patient and family and the providers. Provide support and recognitions for the job well done. Create retention strategies by redesigning the workplace setting to align with the new normal. Capitalize on the use of emerging technologies and educate the people who will use it the most to produce the desired outcomes. And lastly, organizational collaborations. Next slide. I think that's it. Thank you so much. So if you have any question, we have a web page. We will answer your questions. Mabuhay, mga kababayan. Thank you.
Maraming salamat and thank you, Ms. Lucy. Now, may I please ask Ms. Marilyn to take the floor. Ms. Marilyn, please.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Consul General. the Philippines for inviting us here today to hear the presentations. It's been very interesting. A big thank you to the Honorable Minister of Advanced Education for this wonderful announcement. I think it's terrific for Alberta, for nurses in Alberta, and for our patients and families. I'd also like to say congratulations to the Consul General of the Philippines and the Philippine Canadian Nurses Association, led by Lucy Reyes, for all their work alongside the Alberta government to achieve this milestone. It couldn't happen without that working together and collaboration. The Alberta Registered Nurses Educational Trust, or AUNIT as we like to be called, is a registered charity under the Health Professions Act. We distribute continuing education funding, grants, and scholarships to registered nurses and nurse practitioners in Alberta, and we've done this for over 35 years. We often get requests from nurses educated in other countries, internationally educated nurses, for funding to support their education costs to be eligible to practice in Alberta. We've heard about the significant costs of the bridging program, and we do get requests from those nurses. And since the Memorandum of Understanding between the Philippines and Alberta, we have received threefold increases in requests for funding from internationally educated nurses. These are nurses who are currently in the bridging program. They are nurses who are wanting to start the bridging program, or they are nurses who have just finished the bridging program. So it's wonderful to hear today that funding will start for January 2023, as I understand it. My question would still be around clarity for those nurses who are in the program already, who I understand would not be eligible for bursary funding under this program, and those who have recently completed the program. And although they've finished the program, the financial struggles of both of those groups are still very real, and we do hear from them on a regular basis with requests for funding. So further clarity around that would be great, as well as around understanding who the not-for-profit partner is that will be dispersing the bursaries. We would appreciate understanding that so we can provide that information when we get requests from internationally educated nurses. Providing bursary funding to internationally educated nurses is one significant step of many needed to help recruit and retain nurses and ensure Albertans have the nursing care they need when they need it most. Additional strategies are also required to keep those nurses currently in nursing staying in the profession. And we need financial support to help Canadian educated nurses who want to re-enter the profession. These are nurses who are retired, who have taken a leave of absence, or as Lucy said, have left the profession out of frustration. They need support to return to the profession. Many of them will need to take a nurse refresher program. Currently, there's no financial support for this group to take those programs. A group that could seamlessly transition into the workplace upon completion of these programs. Additional government funding for nurses returning to the workforce through the RN Nursing Refresher Program would add to the recruitment and retention strategies, decrease the financial burden for these nurses, and increase the likelihood that more nurses will choose to return. We hope the Alberta government is also considering funding for this group of nurses. As the minister said, Alberta needs nurses. And as a charity with a long-standing reputation and expertise in grant and scholarship distribution, we would be pleased to support the administration of educational grants programs like these for Alberta nurses. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marilyn, and of course to Ms. Lucy for your insights into what has been discussed. Now let us open our floor for the questions that our audience has been wanting to raise. Actually, since we started the program an hour ago, we have already received more than 24 questions already. And some of the questions I think have been beginning to be addressed by some of our speakers, but I'll go through some of the more interesting ones that I think our speakers may wish to weigh on. First, I would like to ask the question comes from Warren. I'm currently enrolled at Bow Valley College under the Internationally Educated Nurses program since September of 2022, and I'm currently on my second term. Am I automatically qualified with the bursary? But if so, do I still have to apply for it? I believe this is can be answered by our friends from Bow Valley with President Waba.
Thank you very much. My understanding from the presentation by the government officials is that eligibility is based on those who started after January 2023.
All right. Okay. Thank you, President Mwaba. The next question I will go through is from unidentified user, but his question is interesting. Understand that before undergoing the bridging program, we need to have our Philippine credentials assessed. My question is will it be valid for submission to CRNA? It's quite unfortunate we don't have any representatives from CRNA this evening, but can I ask what would be the process for those who already submitted their credentials already? Would they be applicable? Would those who have already begun the submission process be eligible for the bursary program?
I think I can respond to that, Victoria.
Go ahead, please.
So the way that this would work is that if there are fees or the testing fees have to be submitted up front by the individual, the way that this would work is that it would need to be students who are already enrolled in the bridging program would be eligible for the grant. And then internationally educated nurses that incur assessment or testing costs but have not yet enrolled in the bursary would then be eligible for the bursary once they enroll, and it would include those assessment costs as well. And I might just address the point around the date as well. So the January 2023 to address both Marilyn's question as well as the person asked the question that's in the chat. So anybody who's currently attending a program, unless they started after January of 2023, they would not be eligible. So that is, we need to have some clear defining line on where this starts. So that was the date that we selected, was January 2023.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Allen. I have a question here. Actually, it's in the chat box from Mr. Ray Angelo Dongalo. I'm currently working as community health nurse in the Philippines under the DOH. My question is if I'm eligible for the bursary program if I apply for it. Would that, if they apply if they begin their application process right now, do I understand this question is, will they be eligible for the bursary program?
So Victoria, it would be once the student is enrolled. So once they've enrolled and we've got confirmation of enrollment from the institution, like we'd indicated, we actually need to understand the cost of the program, the term of study, mandatory fees, those types of things for the program. They would be eligible for the bursary once they're enrolled.
All right.
I would also just add to that there is a residency requirement. The individual has to live in Alberta. So if he's currently in the Philippines, then he would have to make the journey to Canada, become a resident, and then apply for the programs as well as the bursary at that time.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, the next question is actually this is a comment actually made by Solicitor Brandon Kerkhoff from MRU. CRNA is launching an expedited assessment process details, which should be available in their website once it's launched. So thank you very much, Ms. Brandon Kerkhoff. Yes. So another question I'm going to throw to our speakers is from Pearl. I'm currently in Alberta, Calgary. What are the requirements and qualifications again to be accepted in this program? As a context, I tried to apply through the HS Talent Service online, but I was not accepted. But I have 9 years of experience in the ICU and emergency department. So maybe just to clarify, what are the requirements again for our listeners this evening?
I can start. So if you're looking for the IEN at Bovale College, the first requirement is that you've got an international RN, and then demonstration of English competence. I did put a link in the in the chart there, if you can look at that. But if you are in Calgary, Bow Valley College is open, so you can just walk in and we'll be able to assist you. Thank you.
Thank you, President Moaba. Another question is from Ms. Carla De La Cruz. I'm currently here in Calgary as a TRV, open work permit. Am I eligible in the bursary or do I need to be a PR first?
So again, for the bursary program, the requirement is that they are enrolled in one of the bridging programs at the one of the approved bridging programs at the 3 institutions right now. So the application process would start once they start enrolling at that institution.
So, okay. So some of the other questions actually do relate to this, whether they are qualified based on their current status of residency here in Alberta. So does this apply? Will it needs to be that they have to be enrolled in any of these 3 institutions? That's correct, right?
That's correct. And I would assume that would mean that they're also living in Alberta. So they don't have to have permanent residency in Canada, anything like that, but they do need to reside in Alberta and attending one of these 3 bridging programs.
All right. Here's a question coming in our chat box by Mary. Oh, sorry. From Friendly Delida. I'm already working here in Alberta, and I want to pursue my career as a RN. I have a West evaluation of 4 years, BSN Canadian equivalency, and what would the process be to able to enroll in the MRE bridging program, or would I still need to wait for the assessment from NMAS?
Hello,
Yes,
this is Chad. Yeah, hopefully you can hear me.
Yes.
And my colleague, Liz Van den Kerkhoff might want to weigh in as well. But the process would be if you are an RN and you're seeking to become registered here in Alberta and Canada, that process would be to go through the NNAS application process. And then once the CRNA has assessed your application, provided a letter with indication of what bridging courses, if any, you might need, at that point you apply to the BCN at MRU using the Mount Royal application. Not sure if Liz,
I can just, I'm on. I would just add to that that both of those assessment processes are under review, the national and at the Alberta level. So I expect they're going to be that process will be shortened, but we don't know the details of that yet. They're being fairly quiet about it until they're ready to launch. So I would keep a close eye on those websites, CRNA and NNAS, to see how that will proceed in future.
Right. Thank you very much, Provost Chad, and to Ms. Van den Kerkhoff. And my next question is here for Bow Valley College. I was able to get a spot at BBC for September 2022 intake. However, I have to drop it due to reasons. Will I still be able to apply for the IEN program, which I initially applied in 2018, but unfortunately it didn't pass after I challenged the subjects BBC required? My question is, are my credentials still acceptable if I apply for the IEN in fall of this year, 2023? Thank you. This is from Des and addressed to our friends from Bow Valley College.
Sorry, I missed the first part. So you was admitted and then you withdrew?
Yes, that is seen based on the statement. Des, the writer of this question, had a spot in Bow Valley in September 2022 intake, but dropped it due to personal reasons.
So if you had a spot, if you admitted, then what you used to apply is still valid. So I'll encourage you to just put in your application again.
Okay, thank you. Another question is here from in the chat box from Zine Ox. Are the placements for those who applied to the bursary program for rural areas only, or do they apply to cities like Calgary or Edmonton? Maybe our friends Alan can answer this.
For sure. Thank you, Victorio. So I did reply to Zine in the comments as well. So I've provided some information there. So it is for rural areas only. We're currently using the Rural Remote Northern Program Community Table to determine what those rural areas are. And I've provided a link as well in the chat there that would take you to that table.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. So next question. There's quite a lot of questions actually pouring in. So apologies if your questions will not be answered today. So this has already been answered. My name is Rowena. I am currently working as an LPN, and I was already assessed by CRNM in Manitoba. Is there a possibility that my credentials will be able to be forwarded to CRNA in order for her to be able to practice here in Alberta?
I can answer that.
Yes, Ms. Lucy.
Okay. So if you already have been assessed in Manitoba, based on your credentials, and if you already have passed the NCLEX in Manitoba, there is reciprocity among the Canadian provinces to get a license in Alberta. Now, for the most recent update, you can go to CRNA, or if it's easier, go to the Philippine Canadian Nurses website. That is going to be in the chat. If we can follow up on your questions, because we do have IENs like you who are willing to mentor or answer your questions based on what the process is and also their personal experiences. That's why we are the advocacy group for you guys.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lucy. Going to another question. For this is actually for all the institutions. I know this has been addressed in some detail by some of you, but how often are the bridging classes, and are all the bridging classes in person or in online? I recall that there was discussions that of course there is a possibility of conducting online classes. So maybe I can request MRU, Bow Valley, and Northwest if they can be able to answer this question.
It's
North-
Elizabeth here. I can answer it on the MR. Oh, sorry,
Okay.
Jennifer.
Go ahead, Elizabeth. You go ahead.
Okay, thanks. On the MRU side, we call it a blended program at the moment, and which means that we do a bit of both. But we are in the process of revising that program with the intent, as I believe Chad had in his presentation, that we will offer all of our theory courses online, but we will continue to have an in-person residency, was what we're calling it at the moment, where students would come and do some hands-on in-person experience in the simulation lab before they then go in to do that final clinical practice. So there will be a bit of both, but all of the theory is going to be online, and that will begin probably January 2024 by the time we can implement that new program.
Ms. Jennifer?
At Northwest, we have what we call High Flex, where students have the opportunity of choosing to be in person or online.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much for these answers.
And for
all right.
Bow Valley College, exactly what Jennifer said.
Oh, thank you very much, President Maba. So my next question is from Tristan. Between IENs who are currently in the Philippines and those versus those who are already here in Alberta, most especially the LPNs, how is the prioritization for the bursaries and fast tracking of documents?
Sorry, could you repeat that question, Victoria?
Okay, sorry about that. So the question is, would the prioritization of those who are applying for the bursaries, is it only for those who are already here in Alberta and who are working as LPNs, who can be able to take advantage of the bursary program, or can those who are internationally educated nurses who are still in the Philippines, will they be taking advantage of this, or will there be a priority for those who are already in Alberta, so to speak?
Yeah, so thank you for that, Victoria. So the priority is actually, the priority for who would receive the bursary would be the order in which they enroll in the programs and apply for the bursary once they're enrolled into a bridging program. So regardless whether they're in the Philippines today, if they become registered in Northwest or Bow Valley or MRU into a bridging program, they can provide the documentation that they're enrolled in the program, then they would qualify for the bursary.
All right. Okay. Another question here in the chat box from Rhea. Do we still need to take a language exam when working in as LPN and bridge, and we intend to bridge to RN?
I think I can answer that.
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead, Ms. Lucy.
The regulatory improvements are happening very fast. And for all of the prospective applicants on this chat, I think the first thing you need to do is to actually log in to the CRNA website. The PCNA website, we're doing the updates. We're posting them there based from what we hear that's posted by the CRNA website. But the first step, even before NANAS, is to go to the CRNA website, step number 1. And from there, you'll be directed what is the new process is, because things are moving quickly. What we're discussing right now will be different in the next 2 weeks. So keep abreast with the websites for the regulatory bodies.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Lucy. Will you be adding anything more, Alan?
No, I don't have anything further.
Okay, all right. So mindful of time and the hour, it's already 6:08 in the evening. And we could actually go on forever and ever in this particular topic because there are just so many questions. But we would like to thank, of course, our speakers and reactors and panelists for this evening session. Before we end, may I call on the Consul General to make his final remarks. Consul General, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Deputy Consul General Vic. I again would like to thank all our speakers and panelists and reactors for their very insightful sharing. I believe that this has been a very informative session for all our audience. I encourage all of you to directly contact the Mount Royal University, Bow Valley College, Northwest College if you have additional questions regarding their conduct of the nursing bridging program. On the bursary program, please follow the Philippine Consulate General's Facebook page, the website of the Ministry of Advanced Education of Alberta, if you would like to know some more details about the implementation of this bursary program. Another provision of the Philippines-Alberta Memorandum of Understanding on the Recruitment of the Filipino Nurses is that Alberta will create a Nurse Navigators program. It will be a portal, a one-stop shop for information about the credentialing process in the province that will include information about the National Nursing Assessment Service, the College of Registered Nurses of Alberta, of course, the Ministry of Advanced Education's bursary program, the learning institutions that provide the bridging program. So this will be the next development in the implementation of the MOU. All our listeners are encouraged to follow the website of the ministry as well as the Facebook page of the Philippine Consulate General for any update about this one-stop nurse navigators program. We will be continuing the implementation of the MOU, and there will be 2 other provisions that have to be implemented in the future. This will be the government-to-government recruitment of Filipino nurses. So it will be between the Alberta government and the Philippine government, those who are in the Philippines and who would like to apply as nurse here in Alberta should follow us and wait for further announcements on the availability and the start of this government-to-government recruitment of Filipino nurses. We are also proposing to the Alberta government the delivery of its nursing bridging program to the Philippines through the accredited Philippine institutions, so that Filipino nurses who are still in the Philippines but are planning to come to Alberta to join a family member or to start a new career can already take that nursing bridging program while they are still in the Philippines, so that if they come here, they will just be taking the placement, the nursing placement requirements. So please do follow us, the Philippine Consulate General's website, our press releases, our Facebook page, our other social media platforms. And this is all part of our advocacy to promote the welfare of Filipino nurses. In this particular case, we are focusing on the Filipino nurses. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat for listening to this session. And I hope that you will be able to share the important information that you learned tonight to the Filipino nurses that you know, and to family members, to relatives and friends that might be interested and who will benefit from this program. Maraming salamat po. Good night.
Thank you very much, Consul General Patron. And as mentioned by the Consul General, this webinar will be, and virtual session will be available, still available on our Facebook page at PH in Calgary, and will be later uploaded in our YouTube channel at PH in Calgary. With that, good night from Calgary. This is Deputy Consul General Vic Dimagiba. Stay safe.